Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first of the 2020 NJILOA in-season videos. We saw mentioned in the preseason rules interpretation video a couple of mentions about quick restarts where coaches and players may be asking for a quick restart, and there's some situations where we will want to slow things down as officials. Obviously, this video is intended for both coaches and officials, so to the extent that this helps out either of those parties, we're very happy to do that. First clip we're going to take a look at here is from a collegiate game played earlier this season, Colgate and Syracuse. And as we watch the play roll forward here, we have Syracuse chasing the ball towards the sideline, and the ball ends up going out of bounds off of the team in white. And you can see the team in red is ready for a restart, and the official is slowing them down and not giving them what they want in that situation because there was a red player who came out of the box. And that is pretty much a typical restart that you can expect to see this season after the ball goes out of bounds in the substitution area. The second play that we want to take a look at is a violation on a face-off, and as you can see here, the player in red is going to be awarded the ball after a pre-whistle movement from the player in white, and the player in red does not let the official get the words out of his mouth before he takes off running, and you can see the official signaling for him to come back, and then he will get his restart. So those are two pretty good examples of how we would like it to be officiated on plays that go out of bounds in the substitution area, and also a restart after a face-off violation. Let's take a look at a couple of other restart plays where the officials do a really good job of not allowing the team that is getting possession an unfair advantage. You see the young man with the ball in green try to take off running before the official gets the play out of his mouth, and he's looking for that advantage, and quite simply you can't allow them that advantage, and the official does a really good job of bringing him back and restarting. Let's take a look here at another clip. You will see the ball go out of bounds near the substitution area, and again, this is obviously one of those hot spots. The official gets to where the restart should be, moves the player in the field 5 yards and back to where it should be, and then gives the team in green its restart. This is a really good job of slowing things down and still making things look quite natural on a restart. Let's now take a look at two delay of game potentially restarts. That is the lead official that actually is down near the end line there, and you can see clearly that the player in white is not 5 yards away, and this play was in fact flagged for delay of game by the trail official. Ideally, I think we would prefer if the lead official there started this play from the sideline rather than the end line in a three-man mechanic game. However, that's irrelevant to the situation at hand, because at no point did the player in white give this offensive player 5 yards, and this was correctly flagged for delay of game. One more here to notice is that this play, the shot clock, this is a collegiate game, the shot clock just went off, and the player in white was entitled to it, picked it up, and you see the official turning the ball over there, and the reason why the official turned the ball over was because the player in white maligned his opponent slightly, and a conduct foul was issued to the player in white. However, had this been a normal restart without any conduct from the team in white, this restart would have resulted in a delay of game foul because the team in green did not allow the necessary 5 yards of separation after the restart had been given. I'd like to talk for a minute or two about equipment checks and something that was mentioned in the 2020 rules interpretation video regarding a equipment check needing to be asked for by the head coach of an opposing team on a specific player. And if you note here in Rule 427, as we zoom in, that all requests must take place during a dead ball and be associated with a specific player on the opposing team. Some of the confusion comes in at times when we begin to take a look down here in Rule 5.5, where it says every cross on a team is subject to inspection, which is certainly true, but you can only view this rule through the lens of 427, which again states that it must be associated with a specific player from the opposing team. I'd like to talk for a minute about the 2020 NJILOA rules exam and go over some frequently missed questions. We're going to begin with question number 37, and all these questions were selected if the NJILOA membership answered incorrectly at least 15% of the time. This is a question which is not directly referenced in the rule book. However, it is an interpretation that is out there on the record for many years now, and something that we just wanted to reinforce this year. If a team is flagged for an illegal cross and then the team corrects that cross, and the coach of that team then asks you to check the cross to see if they have made the appropriate corrections, you shall refuse that request, because by rule, if you inspect a cross during the play of game, meaning from the time you have begun the game until the time the game is over, even if it is requested by that team's own coach, if it is illegal, you must penalize it. So therefore, you should refuse the request and allow the coach to make the appropriate changes. Let's move on now to question number 45. The player is moving to scoop a loose ball. Before possession, he is delivered a cross check to the chest, which then follows up through, finishing into the head and neck area. The answer that we were looking for here was letter B, because we wanted to make sure that all of our officials knew that illegal follow-through was going to be its own thing. It is not an illegal body check. This was a change from last season. And you can see here at the top of the rule book, Rule 5.3 and 5.4 are now broken out into their own rules. So these checks involving the head or neck and defenseless player now fall under Section 5.4, which are their own rules. And again, remember that we have developed mechanics for these fouls. Illegal follow-through is an open palm underneath the chin. And blindsiding for a hit on a defenseless player is a balled-up fist with a smack to the small of your back. And targeting is an open hand to the side of your head. And obviously targeting requires either a 3-minute foul or an ejection. Let's move on to number 54. This is a new rule for 2020 on a goalie restart in the crease. The riding attackman B1 has not established a distance of 5 yards, and with his cross straight up in the air, is actively engaging the goaltender, and that is how we are interpreting that rule. This will be a flag down, slow whistle, a technical foul for delay of game against B1. This will not be interference, even if the player and the goaltender make contact. This will be one foul, flag down, delay of game, slow whistle, letter A for B1. And to show you where we will find that in the book, this falls under 422 on restarts, though this specific situation is not addressed in the book. That is how we are going to interpret it, and that is not only in New Jersey, but that came directly from the mouths of David Seidman and Walt Munsey at the NFHS. Moving on to question number 56. On a restart, A1 is 5 yards away and steps aside to allow B1 a path to the goal. Purposefully, the offensive player veers into A1 and initiates contact. What is the call? And we are going to have either no violation on this because B1 has been given a direct path to the goal, or it could also be letter B if the ball carrier runs over the player in the sub-varsity level, and you deem that to be completely unnecessary. You could have an unnecessary roughness foul. So we could have either letter A or letter B as an answer here on this question. And as we look for some justification, we can look right to the case book at 422 here, and you can see that it's addressed specifically in 422.1, letter C. As we keep progressing through the test, number 66, a player is considered to have fouled out of the game and not considered ejected in which of these situations? A player who accumulates 5 fouls could be 5 technical fouls, so that would not be a correct answer. A player who receives a second non-releasable unsportsmanlike conduct foul has, in fact, been ejected per rule. And a player who accumulates 5 minutes or more of personal fouls, that is a player who has fouled out, and that player has not been ejected. Let's take a look for some justification here on this, and you can see it here. And we'll zoom it in for you. We can see it under Rule 511, and the player who accumulates those 5 minutes of personal fouls has indeed fouled out. As we continue through and move on to number 67. This is a very tricky question, actually. It's a bit of a double negative, and really wanted you to get you to think about the answer to this question before just indiscriminately picking which of these would not result in a 1 to 3 minute non-releasable foul. So as we go through the answer choices, let's see which would result in a 1 to 3 minute non-releasable foul. Throwing the cross at the ball, another player, or game personnel, that would, under the rule change, result in a non-releasable personal foul. And we can see the justification for that here under the changes for 2020. You can see that it is a non-releasable foul according to the changes. So as we go back and look at the question, a substitution delays entrance to the game. That is not a non-releasable foul. That's simply a technical foul. And a coach on the field who obstructs play is also a releasable foul per a new rule in 2019. So throwing the cross at a ball, another player, or game personnel would be. However, the other two would not be non-releasable 1 to 3 minute fouls. So therefore, letter D, both B and C, is correct. Moving forward to number 71, the attacking player, A1, dodges and shoots 2 full steps after the ball has been released. The defender makes contact, knocks him to the ground. I put this question up here because we are not going to get too concerned with it. This is a bad question, and the results certainly bear that out. So what we are doing here is creating a scenario in which, depending on how your brain is interpreting this question, it could be that the defending player is stumbling and makes contact and then he falls down, or maybe the contact is deliberate. But depending on how you interpreted the wording of this question, you might have answered it in a number of different ways. And we call this one of those, well, you're getting complicated enough that what you're telling me is something that I probably would have to see in order to make a determination. So therefore, do not worry about if you got question 71 wrong, because it was a bad question. As we go through here, number 79. The official calls a play on for a loose ball hold by A1. The period ends, and then the teams are at full strength. Correct procedure is to face off. Only time we would not have that situation is if the teams were not at even strength, and a play on would denote possession to a team, and that team would start the next period with the ball. However, because the teams are at full strength, there is no possession to begin the next period. And lastly, as we look at question number 80, just before the end of the half and with the teams at even strength, there is a flag down for a technical foul against player A1. The half ends with team B in possession and the flag still down on the field. Regardless of who has the ball at the end of that period there, the flag down will denote possession, so you will adjudicate that foul against A1, and Team B would begin with the ball either in the closest relative spot to it if it was in their offensive end, and they would begin with it at the midfield line if the ball was in their defensive end at the time that the period ended. So therefore, the answer to this question is letter D, either B or C, depending where the ball was when the period ended. As we look for some justification here, closest one we can come up with here is 4-3-1, and this AR here dealing with possession at the end of a period. One last item to discuss is a mechanics change for the 2020 season. It was mentioned at the business and rules meetings. However, just to reinforce it, a memorandum has been constructed about the elimination of the finger signals regarding the jersey numbers of the player who has committed a foul. However, we are keeping in place the same procedure for reporting these fouls of using C-note. You point towards the end line of the team's bench who has committed the foul, and it'll be white 13 / 1 minute, or white number 13, illegal follow-through, 2 minutes, non-releasable, color, number, offense, time, and anything extra. And you can just verbally make that signal and eliminate the finger mechanics from your arsenal. And that concludes meeting number 1, and we hope to see everyone very soon.